All right. Okay. All right, guys. Hello. Hello. Welcome, Robin. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great. I have Robin Moffitt here with me tonight, and Robin is running for school board in Brunswick County.
Correct.
So what cities, pardon me, but what cities are in Brunswick County?
Okay, so we have Leland. That's our fastest growing area. We have Truitt in the west area, Southport, Oak Island. We have Bolivia. We have Supply. So we have a lot of small areas, but I would say Leland is really growing by leaps and bounds. And we are the fastest growing county in North Carolina.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
I did not know that. So where are people moving from?
Oh my goodness, everywhere. They're moving from, I mean, you see license plates from everywhere, but we've got a lot of people from New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Virginia. But I believe I've heard two different people say we're either the fourth fastest growing in the nation or the seventh. So I think it waffles back and forth, but needless to say, we're in the top 10 of the fastest growing county in the nation.
Wow. And so are these, Northerners coming down and bringing their voting habits, or do you have a sense of that yet?
We do have a sense of it. I would say we're a little scared about what they may be bringing with them, but a lot of them have brought conservative values. So we don't really know quite yet where that stands, but we have seen a little bit of both.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad to be talking to you tonight because you are a conservative school board member who's running for a re-election, but you are facing a primary challenge. Tell us a little bit about what made you decide, how long have you been on the board and what made you decide to run again?
Okay, so I was asked to serve on the board. Representative Charlie Miller, who is in the North Carolina House, was currently serving on the school board here in Brunswick County. And he asked me if he were to win, would I take his seat? And so we talked about it. I prayed about it and talked with my family about it. And so I agreed to do it. And so I was sworn in December of 2020. And I've been serving for 18 months. And so I did file to serve again for re-election. And the reason I did that is because I just feel like it's such an important time to be on the school board and to try to fight a lot of the issues that are coming our way, the indoctrination, the transgender movement, the critical race theory, the social emotional learning. And I just feel like it's important to be a voice and to give parents a voice into their child's education. And we just really need to stand and be like gatekeepers to the kids' education and just educate the kids and not bring in all this other stuff that they're trying to bring into the school system.
Well, the problem is the state brings in about 75% of this, and that's what people do not realize. And I keep telling people, Robin, we could elect at a 115 school districts, 100% of them could be rock solid conservatives. It doesn't matter because the state and the DPI in particular, because they administer all this stuff, they're going in a lot of cases behind your backs, or they're saying, guess what? If you do not provide social emotional learning and these stupid surveys, we're yanking 30% of your money.
Right.
And guess what? Try to get reelected when your opponent is saying that, you've kept 30% of the funding out of the classroom.
Right.
So,
and that is frustrating because, we are told you do have to submit a social emotional learning plan to the DPI, to the state, and they will take your funding. And so everyone's like, well, just let them take the funding then, that's fine. And well, that doesn't work because then, the buses can't run and the cafeteria can't serve food and the lights can't stay on and you can't pay the teachers. I mean, it doesn't work to just say, let them yank the funding. Parents do get upset and they get very angry, and I totally can see why, but we are shackled, so to speak, by the state and all of their, things that we have to do that they force us to do as school board members. So a lot of it is out of our control, just like when the COVID toolkit was in place, so much of it was out of our control. We wanted the kids to be in school. We wanted the kids, like my board didn't want the kids to be masked, but there were several that would vote for them to be masked because if you weren't masked, you had to be quarantined. Yeah. But if you and the other person both wore the mask, you magically were safe. So you didn't have to be quarantined. So they had all these silly rules in place that came down from the state. that you had to follow, or your schools were shut down and remote learning would take place again. So a lot of things were out of our hands, and we are kind of shackled to a lot of the curriculum and other things that they render from the state.
I think the most angry that I've gotten this year, here's what happened. When I heard Catherine Truitt over and over and over again tell parents, hey, if you don't like it, go to the school board. We have nothing to do with curriculum. We have nothing to do with anything going on in the school. And I don't know if you realize this, but on August 28th, that's the day before the National School Board Association wrote their letter condemning parents. Catherine Truitt entered into a letter, an official letter that's still on the DPI website, with the very left-wing Eric Davis, who's the chair of the school board. Those two wrote a letter accusing parents of widespread violence and abuse all across the state who were going to the school board meeting. So it's not only confusing, it's infuriating for me, because again, 75% of what's done is led by Catherine Truitt, and yet she has been extremely dishonest. She's given parents the runaround, and she's really made it unfair for conservative school board members such as yourself to actually be able to control what goes on in your own school district.
Right. You don't have a lot of local control, and that's frustrating because there are certain things like that we really want to guard against in our county, and we've done a good job. I mean, we have a policy against critical race theory. Yep. It's a policy 7720. We've made it very clear with our social emotional learning plan that we do have to submit. That's a trigger word for a lot of parents, and they get really upset. I would rather just call it character education, responsibility, respect, doing the right thing. But, the state wants it as their social emotional learning plan. And, so we've kind of tried to narrow ours down in Brunswick County just to, like suicide awareness, signals for depression. If another student says something to you as a teacher, surely, we would want to, reach out to that child. Or if another student share with another student their problems they're having, struggling, we want to reach out. We want to make sure they're not domestically abused or neglected, things like that. But, there's only so much you can do to guard it, because when the state is bringing down all of these, surveys, and we've even said in our county that we don't want them taking surveys. We don't want them to take surveys on the computer. They go to a national data bank, a third party.
Yep.
But they force it in there through the curriculum, just like these new social studies standards, the unpacking documents, and they
100%.
don't even send them out. And there's pages and pages and pages, and the unpacking documents are not shared in a timely manner. I mean, it's just so much to keep up with, and it's really hard to guard against all this stuff coming down from the state.
Right.
And it makes us the villain.
It makes you the villain. And I want everybody to realize that, a lot of the social emotional learning teachings, that's happening from the state level. And here's how it works. So Raleigh will offer a training. We've monitored a lot of these trainings, and they are freaking horrible. That you're going to have 100 teachers all together. Maybe it's 5 in Brunswick, 5 in Carteret, 5 wherever. And so it doesn't matter what you, Robin, the board members, say no critical race theory. If they're being trained on it, that's a problem. And you just mentioned social studies standards. So you as a board are not allowed to outlaw critical race theory for 2 reasons. Number one, social emotional learning, as you're aware, is in all 12 academic subjects, be it math, be it science, whatever. That brings in critical race theory. And number 2, the social studies standards. So we are one of the only states in the union that has critical race theory from the top down, from K through 12. So we're the most far left public school system in the country from the state level. And again, we have a Republican state superintendent who, I've told you guys over and over again, she is not being honest. She is not being honest at all. And she is framing conservative school board members, and she's creating needless acrimony between parents and the school board members. Because, I mean, Robin, I've heard you say this. You're telling your constituents this is coming down from the state. But then you've got Catherine Truitt completely and totally denying what you're saying is true.
Right. And if you look at the unpacking documents, you see it in there. And, I've had several meetings with our chief executive director of children's services and student support services. And, you can pick and choose somewhat what strand or objective you want to teach, but it's so just laid out. There's so many choices and there's so many rabbit holes that a teacher can go down, and we can't be in every classroom every day, all day long, across all of our schools in our system. And, we have some great teachers. We really do. But there are going to be those teachers who they want to teach it, or they don't even know they're teaching.
Maybe they don't know. Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot don't know.
A lot don't know. And then, if you look at our UNC system, our, state supported colleges and universities, my children go to North Carolina State, for example. I have two. And in their education department, they are very apparent. They teach critical race theory. But if they can teach it to their education majors, and those education majors go out into the school systems and teach in the public schools, it's just more, for them to fuel their fire. And so it's so frustrating to know that that's what's happening in North Carolina. And again, we have great teachers. I know several that don't want to teach it. Some don't know that they're teaching it.
I think most don't. Yeah, most
don't. And they don't agree with it.
Yeah.
They just want to teach academics. And so, there may be a small handful that does want to teach it, but that's too many. And, that's where we were really trying to guard against it, but it's so hard when it's so saturated in the curriculum.
Yeah. Well, there's a guy with the last name Goodnight. And Jim Goodnight, big donor to Catherine Truitt, big donor actually to Deanna Ballard, who sits atop of the education committee, and to Mike Lee. Those are two senators that in Raleigh sit atop of all this stuff. Well, he's got a whole chair, a whole professorship for critical race theory at NC State. Mm-hmm. So Goodnight is a Republican donor, was a Republican donor, and he is, paying Catherine Truitt. I think both him and his wife maxed out on her. So you got people even donating to the Republican Party. They're putting this stuff out there, to your point, completely poisoning the well, making sure that we don't have the opportunity to have any teachers without that training. He is the CEO of SAS. Anyone that's taken a dime from him, we have put them on blast. They need not to do that. So, we have our own people setting up roadblocks. And look, like I told you in the green room, people are critical of me. They're critical of me because I've gone after Catherine Truitt. They say, wow, don't go after a Republican. You shouldn't go after a Republican. I'm not.
Right. The values aren't there.
That's right.
Republican values aren't there. The conservative values aren't there. So, you have to call it out. It has to be called out.
Right. And that's why primaries are so important, Robin, as we're saying, is that, this year more than ever, because people are predicting a red wave. Are they right? I don't know. But if they are right, we cannot afford another Republican like Catherine Truitt, for instance, someone that says, vote for me, and they get in and they're not. Because look, if you're in an R plus, I don't know, what generally is Brunswick an R plus?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it's like 70-30 here, 70% Republican, 30% Democrat, but it's changed because you have unaffiliated. So, I don't even know, but I would say we are a red county for sure, Republican.
So
county.
that's why it's important, because Robin, that whoever you put in office during the primary is probably going to win it. And I'll tell you, we have such a small sample size. I mean, in a very good turnout primary, there can be 20% of the Republican electorate that come out. You could be looking at anywhere from 13 to 20%. That means that little amount of people, that's who's controlling the vote. And I'll tell you, you don't want 4,000 or 5,000 people controlling who you're going to have on the school board, right? For the last, we need more people to
absolutely. And, we've ran the numbers for the campaign. I mean, there's approximately 160,000 people living in Brunswick County, told that there's like 115, maybe 120,000 registered voters. And then you get 10%, maybe 15
really
of the vote. They're thinking maybe 20% this year, but still, that's so few people deciding, what's going to happen in our county.
And how many people complain? About 100%.
Oh yeah, and they get really upset and they get really angry. And we've taken a lot of heat being on the school board. I would say probably during COVID, when I came on in December of 2020,
Oh,
when I filled Charlie Miller's seat. Boy, what a time to be on the school board. And the sad thing is we could not focus on learning. It was all about the virus and all about masks and quarantines, and half the population could go on Monday and Tuesday, and then we had a cleaning day, and we had Thursday and Friday. So there was like this whole game that we were playing with the toolkit on how we could keep kids in school, how we could keep sports running, how we could keep the clubs going, how we could try to make it normal, but it wasn't normal. And so remote learning was an absolute failure. No one needs to believe that it was successful. And kids are behind, severely behind. And, we need to be able to focus on academics instead of all this other stuff that the state wants to throw into the curriculum and turn our teachers into psychotherapists or psychologists or, psychoanalysts. I don't know. It's not academic. Wish it wasn't there, but it is.
Not fair to the teachers either. The teachers have a hard enough time. They're saying, look, we've got to have discipline. Like I told you, Truitt and others are against zero tolerance policies. Well, you have to discipline your children in the classroom, for goodness sakes. You've got, fewer teachers coming in to teach. And so they're overburdened. Then you're going to teach them how to be Dr. Phil in every class. And, it really is unfair. We've been talking about the unfairness to you, but it's also demonstrably unfair to teachers. I mean, this letters stuff, this reading, science of reading stuff they have, fine, whatever. Could you pick a different time to do it? Number one. And number two, 80 hours of training on teachers' free time. So it's no wonder why we're losing teachers. You're forcing them to do diversity training over and over and over again. And the implication is white teachers are racist. How do I know? Because it's written at the state school board. It's written on the DPI's website. Yes. That's how I know.
Yeah. And some of them have had to have training for their continuing education units. And they're telling me that, they went to this training class, or it was on Zoom, because, Zoom's such a popular thing now with COVID. And they're like, I had to sit there and listen to, I was a white supremacist. And I was like, are you kidding? And they're like, yeah. So I was in this training, and for the first 20 minutes, that's what I was taught. And that's what everybody in the Zoom was listening to. Yeah. And so you just can't get away from it in our state. And it's so sad to me.
We want the DPI gone. I mean, we're asking for a 50% reduction of staff and of budget over the next 2 years. We're talking to senators. You're going to take heart on this one. They want it 100% gone. Yeah. So we're all thinking the same thing. It is not working. 58% of the state's budget is on that. The woman running it, Truitt, she wants to grow it and grow it and grow it and grow it. And again, the more it grows and grows, it's strangling districts, and it's taking money directly out of the classroom and out of the pockets of teachers where it belongs. Look, we believe in combat pay here, right? So if you're going to be a general in an air-conditioned barrack somewhere and blah, blah, never seeing the war, you shouldn't get 5 times the pay as someone on the front line.
Right, exactly.
That's what's happening. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the people up in Raleigh are making the big bucks, and the teachers who are boots on the ground are suffering, and they're trying to, I can't imagine what they're juggling, trying to catch kids up from remote learning for a year
and their own kids.
And just the stress of, having to, think about when half the class was at home and half of them were face to face because there was a choice. I can't imagine. And the kids in the class were suffering because here they wanted to come to school, but everybody was opening up their Chromebook to make sure the kids at home were joining.
Right.
It's just a nightmare for the teachers. No wonder. We're not, they're walking out, changing careers. They're burned out, and it's unfair to these people it's a calling to be a teacher. It is a calling. It's not anything other than that if you're going into it for the right reason. And so you have these educators who want to teach, who want to shape lives and to teach high academic standards, and they're being thrown curveball after curveball after curveball.
By the state.
By the state. Absolutely, by the state.
Right. And so we need to get the state out of local districts. And there's a lot of different ways that we can do that. And we have to do that through legislation because look, I mean, the General Assembly controls the purse strings. What they've been doing is just giving billions of dollars to the DPI and letting them spend on whatever the hell they want. And I've noticed that there's zero accountability over the last year and a half. Now, recently, over the last couple of months, there has been a couple of oversight hearings. That's great. But it's been a free for all. You cannot pump billions of dollars into a faceless, nameless bureaucracy that all it does is grow and grow and grow and sucks the life out of districts. You just can't do that. We have to have better legislators in Raleigh.
Right. And, you can't, as a legislator, think, I'm going to throw it over to the DPI and they're going to handle it.
Right.
That's not, they need to take the control because DPI is doing kind of their own show. They're taking charge and doing what they want, and there's no accountability there. And, to make a local school board villains, and
yes,
we can't control what parents think we can control. It is very eye-opening to be on this side of it when, you want to stop this or you want to not do this curriculum or you want, and, they get upset and then, they come to the school board meetings. I'd be upset too, as a parent, and I have a child in school. It's upsetting to me what they're trying to push and push and push. And it's all coming from the state. These teachers have to follow objectives and standards. They have to follow them. And what they're given out of Raleigh to teach is what they're given. So, it's hard. It's hard being on this side of it. But, I think you understand, that local districts don't have as much control as what people think they do.
No, they don't. And they need to have more control. And people in Raleigh need to stop lying. People need to stop lying and saying, oh, you're not happy, go to your school board, when they know damn good and well the standards that they're putting up there. Yeah.
Right.
And then when we complain, oh, we have no power, go to local level, they control the curriculum. That is a lie.
Right.
That is a lie. And they're going to play games with you and say, oh, but no. I mean, we all know, just like what you said, the crosswalk material, the standards that you have to meet, et cetera. There's so many different things you have to meet that you're hemmed in to a curriculum. And by the way, a curriculum that their buddies make money off of, their lobbyists make money off of. In fact, I bet you didn't know this. Catherine Truitt's right-hand man, a guy named Jamie Falconberry. Did you know that his wife is married to an education lobbyist who, wait for it, sells products with critical race theory and, wait for it again, also represents in-school psychiatric clinics. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Totally corrupt.
That is totally corrupt. In-school psychiatric clinics.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. But if you're making, that's a lot of the interest though. If they're making money, they want to line their pockets. It's corrupt. Absolutely corrupt.
Totally corrupt, but knowingly corrupt. Catherine Truitt knowingly does that, right? And so again, those standards are made, tightly hemmed in. Their buddies are making money selling specialty curriculums because again, if you have something so specialized, there's only a number of people that could actually give you that curriculum. And what do you know? It's somebody that's friends with the DPI or the state school board. And so that's what's happening. Meanwhile, these people are pariah on our children's future. Meanwhile, at the district level, you're having to suffer for it. You're having to pay the price. Now you have a guy who thinks he can do a better job than you can. He can't.
Right. And, being an educator myself, I taught for school for 10 years. And then when I had my kids, I decided to stay at home because I just wanted to raise them myself. Just a personal decision that I made. It's so different now than it was when I taught school. And I just can't imagine what the teachers are dealing with and seeing this come in. And just, it is corruption. And I think a lot of teachers know it. They do know it. And you made a statement that's really frightening to me when you said we're the most far left of all the states.
We are.
In the nation.
We have 2 chapters in California. They're not this bad. Here's why. There's 2 reasons why, Robin. Number one, when they had ethnic studies and they brought that out, it was for high school. Right. We instituted in 2020, we instituted critical race theory for K through 12. That's number one. Number two, the age of consent in North Carolina. I want to explain it to everybody. for mental health services. That would mean your surveys. That would mean the treatment they're doing in school. That would mean all that. In California, it's 12. In other words, at 12 years old, you can consent on your own to doctors. In North Carolina, it's 0.
0.
0. So you could be a first grader and consent, a second grader and consent.
That's frightening.
And we've got these psychiatric clinics that Jamie Falkenberry, I want you to remember that name. He is the lobbyist. He is the right-hand man, allegedly a conservative or allegedly a Republican for Catherine Truitt. She knowingly has him at her side. His wife is making buku bucks as a lobbyist for these clinics, as they are a pariah on our very children's souls, because they are without the parent by their side. These clinics, the government shrinks, can actually go in, and we know they're diagnosing. They wouldn't be giving the surveys every 20 minutes if they weren't diagnosing.
Right.
Here's what they got to give them so often, Robin, and I don't even know if you knew this. In 2020 also, with the mental health bill of 2020, that Senate Bill 476, here's what happened. We became Medicaid for all inside of the schools. We joined one of 7 states, and here's how that works. Usually, Medicaid would treat, IAP patients, right? Patients with speech impediment, vision, whatever, and we totally get that. Now, anything and everything that's mental health related can be treated in the school. So what you have is every PSU, every school is now a profit center where survey after survey after survey is given. You know why? Because you can't stand in front of a class and say, who's got Medicaid? You can't do that.
Right.
So you have a dragnet for patients, and you give a survey every month, every other month, to see who you can treat, who you can make money off of, and who you can put on medication.
Right.
That's what's happening.
Yeah. And I don't even know how you educate people to know what you just said.
Well, we have been walking this information out. Some people are finding out on their own. Some people are having bad experiences. We're going to have to sue the state, because it will not stop until we stop it. So if you think that only but I cannot put this at the feet of Democrats. It's all Republicans, you guys, all Republicans. We have got to get people in our own party that say, we are not going to be pariahs on children. We are not going to use them for experiments. We are not going to take advantage of low-income students and do this kind of guinea pig stuff on these students anymore.
Right. Well, it's just really sad that they would do this to our kids.
Yeah.
It needs to stop.
It absolutely needs to stop. Look, school's a place of learning. When you change the purpose of that to a treatment center, it makes perfect sense. Nobody gives a damn about learning.
Right. Well, and we can't turn our teachers into these therapists, is what you're saying. It's not a place where they can analyze these deep-rooted issues that they say the kids are having.
Or implant them.
Right. Yeah. And if you're doing surveys every month and you're saying, oh, what service can we offer you?
Yep.
You're just opening up a whole world of, being able to service a child for something you've created that you've planted a seed for.
Yep. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to do. We've got a lot to do from your level all the way up. So if people want to, people aren't going to have a chance to volunteer. So it's go time, baby. Tuesday. Okay. So what time do the polls open in Brunswick?
6:30 in the morning, early, and they close at 7:30.
Okay.
We have 27. Right. We have 27 polling sites, voting sites. It's crazy. We have a big county. So we're manning as many as possible. We've got boots on the ground. We're ready to go. We had an organizational meeting today, and we were ready to roll. We've been working the polls every day, which early voting for me, just my opinion, is way too long. When I was growing up, I went with my parents. They took us to vote when they voted. We didn't get to vote, of course, but we watched them vote, and it was one day.
Yeah.
What is it? It's been open since April 28th here, and it's so long, and that's a whole nother story for another day. But anyway, we're at the end. Saturday was our last day of early voting. Tuesday morning, 6:30, we're ready to roll.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sounds good. So we'll be praying for you and
Thank you.
hoping for the best, and we'll be watching Brunswick County what happens. And so Robin Moffitt is our EFA sponsored candidate for Brunswick, and really one of the only incumbents. Well, we're backing 3 incumbents in school board races,
Oh,
but
wow.
and we'll be looking for you. All
I
right.
appreciate your support. We have 2 seats that are becoming vacant in my county. And so the next election cycle, there will be 3. There's only 5 of us on the board.
Okay.
So yeah, but thank you for your support. I appreciate you backing me. Thank you for the time that you spent with me today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Robin.
Bye.